All right. Welcome to episode 2 of my segment series. Uh, Last time we talked about how to send data using Python and segment. So today we're going to be looking at how to connect two destinations and send data. Um, Today specifically, we're going to be talking about how to connect uh, Google Analytics. I know you can see a couple in here. And not just Google Universal Analytics. We're going to be looking at GA4. Uh, if you didn't know, Google is getting rid of Google Universal Analytics next year, July, I believe. So after that, GA4 is all we have. So we're going to be looking into how to set up something pretty simple for that. So cool. First, we're going to review our Python source, and then we're going to run the project just to make sure everything is still running as smooth as we would like it to. All right, so the project is running. Sweet. Okay, so now I believe we go to localhost, and I think this does 8,000. So then items 1, right? Okay, sweet. So now if we look at this, what is today, the 19th? Okay. So this is the event that just came through. Awesome. And just to make sure, we'll look at the second one as well. All right, so item number 2. Okay, it just came through, beach towel. Perfect. All right, so now we're getting all this data. So what do we do with it now? And the question is, that's what segment is for. One implementation lets us send data to multiple destinations. So today we're going to be connecting it to Google Analytics 4. This is not a Google Analytics 4 tutorial, but maybe I'll create one. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go here, add a destination, and then look for Google Analytics 4. Sweet. So now it's loading. So now this is powered by Actions. Actions is a little different than normal destinations. Actions have predefined events, basically, that the destination may digest, basically. So like page viewed, select promotion, view item list, all these items, Google Analytics takes, and in a lot of times they are conversions. So cool. So yeah, it's a feature that improves the destination setup experience with a streamlined default setup process and more options for customizations. For action-based destinations, you have more control over the types of data you can use and how that data is mapped to a destinations. So yeah, for example, segment likes to name things a little different, like account created or signed up in past tense. So actions allow us to map or signed up or account created event to a sign up in Google, which is pretty awesome. Okay. Also, if you want to look at the documentation, I definitely recommend you to. We'll probably be going over it a little bit here and there, but these are the things that they require. So with that, we're going to start creating one, giving it a name. Just pick any name. And then ideally, I don't know if it asked me to, but we can map them to tags so that it's like prod versus dev. But cool. I don't see it. Okay, so now we have our basic settings. So now one of the things is our measurement ID. Now this is a GA4. I believe if you want to create a new one, you just create a new property, give it a name, JniusTech YT. Yeah, that's fine. Advanced. So, oh, crazy. So yeah, July 1st, 2023 is when Google Analytics 4 is going to stop. It's just me, dude. So I guess this. Cool. So you pick your setup. Now you have this data stream setup. We're going to set up a web. And here we can just pick whatever. We'll just do JniusTech.com, which I will be showing you guys in this video. So then JniusTech YT. Cool. So now we just create our stream. Now what we're going to need from here is our measurement ID. We can copy it. We can bring it over to segment if it... Computer's been acting a little slow. All right, so now we just paste that in here. So now the next thing it asks for is an API secret. You can do that by going to admin data streams, which is where we're at. Picking our stream, that's actually the view we're at. So now we're going to go to measurement protocol and then create an API secret. So there's our web stream details. We just head down here, measurement protocol API secrets. And then you just got to review all these terms, all their data collection. Highly advise you to read it. I didn't, but we don't talk about it. All right. So now we create an API secret. Give it a nickname. We'll just call it segment. And then we just copy it. And you can just click here. So now, when my computer decides to, we'll go back to our segment setup, paste that API secret in there, and then save changes. I don't want to enable it yet, not just yet. Calm down. We're going to go to mappings real quick. Now, this is the new feature of actions, where you can map your events to specific events in your destinations. In our case, we're not sending page views, I don't think. I think last time we only set up identify calls and tracks. So, to do any type of, so these are the events Google Analytics takes. You can obviously add your custom ones by going down to custom event. Now, this is my setup. You guys can change it to whatever you guys want. You guys can change it so that like the event name is a specific name. It's from a specific user ID or the user ID exists. I'm not going to go over all that. I'm just going to do any track event, which is what this is doing, right? So the event type is track. So any track event. So we can test an event. This is one that we were sending yesterday. So cool, we'll use that. Now your client ID. I believe this is different than, okay, no, so it is the same. So I know Google Analytics generates a client ID. So I think you can use that, or Segment just recommends you to use either the user ID if it exists or the anonymous ID. So we'll just go with that. Now the event name is just going to be the actual event name in our event object. Our unique user ID. For this, we're going to set up that same function over here so that it's either the user ID if it exists or the anonymous ID otherwise. Now you can turn your events to lowercase. I like doing it. Wait, what? You can send event variables function. Anyway, but yeah. I like turning it to a lowercase. Otherwise, it looks all weird. Since with Google Analytics, you can't have spaces in your event names. So actually, Segment kind of takes care of that on their own. They add a little underscore between words. So yeah, I'm just turning it into lowercase, so it looks a little nicer. Now, user properties. Here you can pick any user properties like emails if you're sending it, user ID, I guess. But we're just going to leave it like that for now. Now, this engagement time in milliseconds, if you're sending it through an event, fine, you can set it. Otherwise, you don't have to. This is just specifically because there was a bug where when the GA was receiving events, they weren't showing up in the live view. Oh my God. So yeah, on the real time, I mean. So that kind of fixes that a little bit. And I say a little bit because there's a couple other things that need to be fixed. But here, this is pretty cool. So event parameters, you can either do one by one, or you can just come in here, pick a whole object. In my case, the properties for any event. And this means all the properties. Now, properties have a few limitations in GA4. And I can spend another video talking just about those limitations. But for example, property names can't be longer than 40 characters. Property values can't be longer than 100, I believe. You can only have 20-something properties in an event, and a few other things that I'll talk about in a different video. But I will tell you, if you have anything that's not a character or an underscore, I'll recommend you to rename it. Otherwise, it's making a bunch of filters, and there's limits on filters, and it gets nasty. So honestly, just rename it. There's always a function, which we'll discuss in another video. I don't have an audience yet, but if someone in the audience wants a request, I'll be happy to. But cool. And then at the end, you can test your mappings. So when you test it, it actually sends a request to Google Analytics 4. So if we come here and that works, we should see an event popping up. Now, GA4, their protocols API has a few, like, what would you call them? False negatives, I guess, where it tells you it's sent, but it really doesn't. But in our case, it got sent. So item viewed. We got our engagement in milliseconds. Item ID, item name, SKU. You can actually click on these, and it gives you the value, which is super sweet. Now, you may notice it doesn't give you any geological data. So that's one of the things that we're still working on improving. I'll have to see what's up there. But now we have data flowing from a Python API to Segment to Google Analytics. So now we can just enable this at the end. So any track event will get sent. Now, to test it a little more, we're gonna. So now we got Python set up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add a JavaScript source. I already have one, so I don't think I will. And this is we're gonna be using JniusTech.com. So if you're already there, this is kind of like a follow-up, or I can explain to you a little bit, I guess. JniusTech is a website I made a while back. I'm still working through making it better, so making it more mature. But as of now, it works all right. So you can click on learn more and learn more a little bit about what it does. But it lets you connect to a JavaScript source. So if you don't know how to code, or you don't want to code and you just want to test some simple little things real quick, like I'm about to do, this is a perfect way to do that. And the way it works, I just locked myself out. Perfect. It's what I wanted. So you can start testing and then just put in your segment key here. This segment key here is going to be this one. Now, this is just for JavaScript, so keep that in mind. I don't know what happens if you put a Python in there, or it's just not good data. So don't do it. Now here you can disable it and enable it. So now if we enable it, we can come to the debugger here. And yeah, there's a few from other days. So okay, now let me see what's going on here. Gonna log myself out again because this should have created an anonymous ID. Oh, its tracking is disabled. Okay, so we just enable it. Then it's gonna reload the page and then reload it again, and it still doesn't give you an anonymous ID. What is going on? The only thing I can think of is this is somehow not tracking content. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna open up Chrome. Firefox has given me issues with that. I don't know why, but okay. I'm gonna log myself out, and I'm gonna copy the same code. All right, so we have the last one from the 13th. We go to start testing, and then begin. So now it's gonna take some minute to load. If it does this, just reload. It's weird. But all right, now we're in. And no track event yet. So I think if we refresh, now we should get a page view maybe. Unless this is not the right code, but I think it is. I can update it. Why is this disabled? Okay, so I just enabled it. So now I think, yeah. So now we get, this may be a bug in my implementation, so I'll fix that. But now we get a page event. Now look at all the stuff that JavaScript gives us by default. Anonymous ID gives us a context with things like an IP address, what library version, your locale, page stuff. This is pretty important because campaigns go through page stuff, so we'll go over that too. Then properties, user ID, there's no user ID yet, so there's an anonymous ID. This is the same one as this one right here. And it also gives it to you here. All right, so now, what the heck is this platform? I built it mainly, I guess, for like testing little things like quickly without having to spin up some code and then write some code. It was super simple way to just do some quick tracking. But also for non-technical people to come and, if you don't know how to do code, use this to kind of test your implementation and how your destinations receive that data. So here you can set up your identify event, here your track events, and here your page events. Let's start with the identify event. Here it'll list you any traits that your user may have. So for example, we can generate a user ID. And this will actually generate a random one for you if you don't want to write one. So we'll go with that. Sorry. So now you can add an email, me@me.com. My first name is me. My last name is mean. So then you can come down and save this. What this will do is it'll send an identify call to segment, and it'll start creating your user profile. Now, when we look at these start pages, we can see that it's tied to that user, which is pretty awesome. Exactly what we would want. Now you can always generate a new one with this one. It'll auto-generate a new anonymous ID and a new user ID. And if you want to keep your traits, you can. Otherwise, you can just delete them. We're going to stick with this dude. So I'm just going to... Oh, no, this just logged me out. Okay, that's fine. Everything is fine. Okay. So now... Actually, no, yeah. I'm just going to do one. Me too at me.com. And you don't have to fill this whole thing up. You can, for example, just do a first name. And that should be just fine. Cool. So now we're getting our identify calls in here. And actually, before we do this, let's go in here and we're going to connect GA4 to this. So same process. We went to our sources, added a destination. We're picking Google Analytics 4. We've read this. You can read the documentation again if you need to refer to it. But here, you set up the same thing, YT. And here you can fill in either your settings again, or I can copy them from my other one, which is sick. So this way, I don't have to go in and look for my measurement ID again or my API secret. They're just here. So all I got to do now is just enable this. Now, mappings, this will send custom events only as of now. So what we want to do is also send page events. Even within segment, those are labeled differently. So, event type is page. You can do identify, group, screen, alias. But for now, we're going to do pages. We're going to add a page. Yes, this is awesome. Wait, what? It picked. Oh, yes, it does. Okay. Okay, awesome. So now user ID or function. User ID if it's there. Otherwise, use your anonymous ID. Page location, context that page, that URL. That's perfect. Page refer, context that page, that refer. And I'll show you guys how to look into this. User properties, we're not sending identify, so I don't think we need to set this up. Page title, context that page, that title. Engagements in milliseconds. And then here we can add our what the data is going to have. So path. We can actually remap these, but we'll just leave it as this. Okay. So that was sent. Now if we refresh this. Right, I'm going to save this real quick. We should still get that other page view since it was from testing. Okay, perfect. So now we come to page view, get our page location, which should be the URL. Refer, there wasn't one. Title, it's probably just React app. Path, start, yeah. So you get all your page data here. So sweet. That's super sweet. So just like that, we have, without even using any code, we have data flowing from a website into Segment to a Google Analytics. So awesome. Actually, I'm not gonna use this. Okay, so identify tracks. And honestly, if y'all ever need to do something else, you can even come here and just do analytics at identify. Then I believe you do the same ID. And if you want other properties besides that, it'll still keep those. But you can do other things like last name. It doesn't have one, and it's just sitting there. So, GG. Favorite color, we'll do something like blue. And favorite food. Oh, Jesus. Pizza. And just like that, I think if we reload the page, I think all those things should show up there. So favorite food, pizza, favorite color, last name. And somehow okay. Anyway, so yeah, they show up here. Awesome. Now, track events. These are sweet. And I have a long vision for them, but I'll get there eventually. So here you have a few options. You can set your own. So you pick an event name, properties, values. But you also have predefined paths. So if you pick one of these, it'll kind of simulate a certain scenario, like someone buying something, right? They added it to a car, they checked out, they ended up on the thank you page. Also, something like onboarding a platform. They go to a sign up with some UTM campaigns. So you send an identify, account created, all the way to like interview updated or scheduled. And it just kind of gives you the little event type on the side, little extra. But all right, for now, we're going to stick to setting our own. So first, we're going to pick our event name. And we can do something like account created. A property, first property, right? So we can do something like platform. And we'll do like web. What's another one? Brand. Maybe we have different brands, so we'll do brand one. What's something else we can track? Method. So maybe there's different types of signing up, right? Like sign up with Google, Apple, login. So we'll just do something like native. So now I'll show you this just because, but there's a server-side tracking code here where you can add either a Python or Node. Only those two work for now. I'll probably work on eventually adding more support. But you can also send events on server-side. But we have our event created for JavaScript. We can see the code here, which is awesome. So if you wanted to, you can actually copy this, and same way we did the identify, just paste it and hit enter. If we look here, or JavaScript, I think, account created, the brand one method platform. So this is where this kind of becomes a bit powerful, right? You can set up your own events here and get the code for that. I'll work on adding server-side code actually, eventually. Maybe this week even. But yeah, you can just copy it. If you have a developer, just copy it, send it to him or her, and you're good. I'm going to work on adding like dynamic field of key and value. So eventually you should be able to add like as many properties as you'd want. But all right, let's send it using a server side too. Just because I feel like that would be pretty sweet. So we copy our code, come up here, paste it, update it. And for Node, it's literally the same steps. All right, so now we have our tracking code in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this. We're going to create maybe our signed in, right? We'll do method. We'll do, maybe this time they use Google. And we can even track like campaign data here. Something like, I don't know. I know it's different, but something like search. And yeah, we can only do those two. We don't have to worry about all of them. Now here you have a few options. You can either send it just one time, multiple times. So you can go as many times as you want, go crazy. So why not send it like 5 times, right? We're going to use Python. And here, if you click send, it'll send it both on JavaScript and the server side. Or you can simply just send server side. So now it's sending only on the server side 5 different times. We can probably see them appear here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're probably not going to see the 5th time. Just because that's kind of how segment works. If the events are coming too fast, the UI doesn't have the capability to update that fast. But if we reload, we see all 5 events. And just so you know, I'm not messing with you. Account created, method, Apple, campaign, 2022. I don't know. So now let's just send this twice. So now we come here, account created, campaign method. Sweet, right? So yeah, this is, I'm proud of this tool. So if you want, go crazy here. Test your integrations, test your data going to your destinations the way you want it. Go crazy in here. It's totally free. So yeah. Now we can check out the e-commerce path. Sending it just with, I guess we can do both. But if we open this, you can start seeing product viewed, identify event, account created with the user ID, checked out with all this stuff. If we go to our JavaScript, we should have the same thing. Account created, product viewed, added to cart, signed up, all these little things. So that's sick. All right, so going back here. Now, pages, you're going to be using that quite a bit. You probably do already. So here, you can set your like custom path. So for example, if you're trying to make sure that a campaign works and it's being picked up by segment correctly. Now, same thing here. I'm going to add like a little dynamic key value pair fields in here. But for now, you can still set up your little campaign setup here. So you can do a campaign. And notice the URL updating real time. So you can pick a campaign. And you don't need to do like UTM, whatever. You can just put the name of it. So we'll do, what did we do last time? 2022. A source. We're going to do something like search. Or is that where Medium goes? And this is, I don't know. We'll do Google. Content. I feel like these last two are normally used too much, but we'll do something like content. And then term, same thing, term. We don't talk about this, okay? I'll get that fixed. But now we basically have our page set up. So now if we come here, the last one we have is thank you. So if we simply hit take me there, it's going to take us to this page. And then it's going to read us some info about this page. The path, account create, we specified that. Our query parameters, UTM campaign 2022, content, medium, source, term. And then if you need to add a custom query parameter, simply add it to the URL. So I'll show you how to do that. But for now, our account create, we see it here, our search parameters, UTM. Now you may wonder, where's my campaign? Well, if we go to raw and the context, here we have our campaign. It picked up every field automatically, no extra code necessary. I guess you wouldn't know that, but you don't need any extra code. It simply picks up your UTM parameters. So now, if we wanted to add something else, we would just simply go here and add our refer. I don't think this is right, but we'll just do refer something like Facebook or facebook.com. But now you see it picks that up. Now, refer Genius. Yeah, I don't remember how it picks it up, but it should be on your search. So if we go all the way here, we see refer facebook.com. Now, we haven't even been looking at this. So let's look at it real quick. Now it's picking up 12 different views, 3 different users, which makes sense. One was from Python, which it's a completely distinct user. The first user we used from the test event, and then the user we've been using. So that totally makes sense. Now, you see it doesn't report geological data. I think that's something they're still trying to figure out. But we get our number of users. Doesn't pick up sources. I think that's also getting fixed. Where we get our users, page titles. I don't change the title on that. I probably should. But then all our events, product viewed, product added to cart, item viewed, account created. These are all from the predefined path. And then all the page views that we've done. And actually, we can take a quick look at these. Refer, name, search. And we can look at search. Why not? And here you can actually see your campaigns. So it doesn't report it here, but I believe it reports it later in your engagement events and acquisition as well, I think. I'll have to double check, but you have to wait 24 hours for that. But yeah, now let's say you only need, let's say you don't want signed in events in Google Analytics for some crazy reason, right? I'm not saying you don't need them. I'm just saying maybe you won't at some point. So you can obviously add your own custom events, but then you would have to edit it so that if the name is this, and if the name is this other, and if the name is this other. So there's a simpler way by using filters. So here you can create your filters, so you can either do things like do not send the event if these conditions are met, or do not send these fields if these conditions are met, or only send this event if these conditions are met. Now this will affect every track event or every piece of data coming through that source, going to that destination. So what we can do here uh, for Java's coming from JavaScript. So on a Google destination, uh, let's say we don't want to send the event signed in. We can see if there's a simple way here. So now, since it's not the event signed in, you can test it. It'll be sent. So now, if we want to load another track event, check that out. We can call it something like signed in. It should get blocked. It will not be sent to JniusYT Google Analytics. So exactly what we want. So then we just name it skip signed in, and then a description. We don't want signed in events in GA4. So we skip them and then enable it and save. That's simple. Segment really makes it that simple. Now, obviously, I looked at Google Analytics 4, but if you don't see one of your destinations here, which would be surprising, but it does happen. I've had it happen to me. They have a bunch of destinations, so I would encourage you to really just go through them. But if for some reason they're not here, there's functions, which allows you to create basically code that you can run on segment every time an event is sent or whenever you have it be sent. It gets executed, and if you have an API that you need to send this data to, you send the data to that API. And I will do that in another video. But for now, this has been great. It's been a good journey so far. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comment once I get an audience. But yeah, this has been your host, Jnius. So peace out, man.